So the demands have still not been met at CHOP, so here they are. 1, defund SPD by 50%, fund black communities, free all protesters. So that's still the demands. And nothing else has really changed much. The protesters say they're not leaving, even though the mayor and police chief Best say they're going to move them out of here. But there are still people here. And then earlier today, apparently DOT moved a blockade, one of the barriers, but the reports are that protesters have built their own barricades. But there are now people right now out on the soccer field having a big meeting. Looks like the General Assembly is happening, which happens pretty much every day. There's actually kids hanging out at the CHOP. So this is after weeks and weeks. So here are some of the original barricades. Now, right now, out on the soccer field, there is the daily General Assembly that's been happening. That's a tradition that has lasted since the Occupy Wall Street days, when every day at whatever Occupy encampment, people get together at a certain time and have a General Assembly, which is just a speak out, basically, where people express their concerns and then try to organize. So people right now are trying to organize to respond to the Seattle police retaking the East Precinct, which is nearby. And Mayor Jenny Durkin, June 22nd, which was last Monday, and Carmen Best, the police chief, said the SPD is going to take it sooner or later. Sooner than later is what she said at that time. But here we are on June 30th, and the protesters are still here, and they haven't actually cleared the park or the protest zone, although a lot of people have left. As you'll see, I don't want to film people's faces or anything that's going on here that might be private, but this is what's going on. This is the East Precinct as it stands right now. That's the main entrance. And this is the barricade that apparently protesters have built at this point, because the city took away some of the barricades that were right here. And the protesters at CHOP are saying that this barricade actually helped save them when a car ran through and fires and shots were fired. So they want to keep the barricade to protect them here. Here a protest or something. Seattle People's Department now. So here's the barricade that the city had originally, and it's still here. And this is on the east side of the precinct. So this is still here. It's quite a large barricade, but it's not, this one was not created by the protesters. And as you can see on the side of the building, they have their demands. Fund community justice and release protesters. So here we are at the art installation by Emma Chinelson, where we have fake people sitting in the restaurant. This is kind of cool. This is the kind of art that I really like here. It's so colorful and it looks so good in this camera, this Canon sensor, especially the deep reds and greens. So here's a new one I haven't seen. All right. I just wanted to say that on Sunday there were protests in Aurora, Colorado over the death of Elijah McClain. He was a very well-loved person in the community there. Musician, he often played violin in the park. So on Sunday there was a memorial to Elijah in the park where violinists got together to play some music in his honor. And police showed up in riot gear and used pepper spray to clear the park. So there you go. I mean, the Aurora police killed Elijah, and then when people tried to hold a memorial, they attacked people in the park. So is that what we've come to in the United States now? This is Mark Taylor-Canfield reporting live from CHOP in Seattle, the Capitol Hill organized protest. So on Saturday, when this all broke in Seattle and there were these riots, I also saw police, and protesters actually gathered after all the tear gas and the burned cars and everything and started to talk to each other. And it was, and literally, I have it on video on one of my earlier videos about where this woman is just addressing the police officer directly on the line. And he's actually responding and talking to her, which is what you would think would happen, when people are hired to serve and protect, but most of the time they just try to crack down on the protests instead of sending negotiators or trying to communicate with the protesters about their demands. And that's part of the problem. Oh, I missed the interview, but... So I just noticed there was a corporate TV crew here, an anchor person and a camera person, and they're not wearing any logos. Like normally when they show up at events, they have the big Fox News emblazoned on their blazers and, all the big logos, but no, not today. And they know, you know why, because the media is not very popular right now in Seattle because they keep reporting false propaganda and false narratives about what's going on. But one thing that I can say is true is that there's a major battle brewing, a political battle in Seattle. And unfortunately, some of these issues have taken away from what the original protests are about it to begin with, which are some very serious issues and involving racism and police brutality, but other things as well, institutional problems in this society that have never been dealt with. But we have a situation now politically where our Democratic Socialist City Council member, who has been supporting the protests and has spoken at some of them and actually led a march into City Hall to demand the resignation of Mayor Jenny Durkan, a march on Sunday to the mayor's home, to the mayor's upscale home in an upscale neighborhood of Seattle, and that really pissed off Mayor Jenny Durkan, who is a former U.S. attorney in the Obama administration. She claims that the fact that Shama Sawant led this protest to her home was a violation of her privacy and her security, and she is calling upon the Seattle City Council to expel Shama Sawant and has listed several accusations toward the Democratic Socialist. She's a member of the Socialist Alternative Party, and she has been quite a firebrand in Seattle on a lot of issues of like the $15 minimum wage, $15 an hour minimum wage, the issues about rent control and affordable housing, and now taxing Amazon to provide for COVID relief. But now, not only is the city council member Shama Sawant and several members of the city council calling for her resignation, she's calling for the city council to expel Shama Sawant. So that's the situation here in Seattle at the moment. This is Mark Taylor-Canfield reporting from CHOP in Seattle. So there's still people in the park. It's all about the pink umbrella, right, folks? That's what started it all. That pink umbrella. A dangerous, dangerous pink umbrella. For years, people have been arguing, what is a journalist? Are citizen journalists real journalists? And my attitude is that anybody who provides information to the public, if without a major political party spin or without, extreme prejudice, is a journalist, or at least a citizen journalist, because according to Reporters Without Borders, they have a category called netizen, which means somebody who shares information online in a digital form. To Reporters Without Borders, that gives you the same rights as a journalist. You're a netizen. You could be a blogger, you could be somebody who shares a lot of information on social media. You're still protected in their eyes under First Amendment freedom of the press, because you're sharing information with the public.
Would that mean that Omari would then count as...
Absolutely. Live streamers are really important in that whole scheme. Now they aren't, they're a different kind of journalist. Much more raw.
It would be the same thing as, I guess, photojournalism minus the whole, instantaneous showing of what's happening compared to like the stream. You're right there, recording what's happening.
Live streaming is different from what I do. What I do is I shoot videos and do interviews with people. Now, I haven't done many interviews during these protests because people don't want to be interviewed. I've tried, believe me, and people just don't. So I get pressured by people.
I get it.
Yeah,
I definitely do.
So I get pressure from Jeff Santos or other people. Hey, can you get somebody on the show so we can talk to them about why they're protesting? And they go no. And I even tell them, you don't have to give your name or anything. Like no. So that's what it's like when you're at a protest like Seattle, where it can actually be kind of dangerous. Now, in terms of like. In terms of what Omari does, it's raw, it's uncensored, and it's on the ground, right? And a lot of videos get broken by Twitter, to tell you the truth, not on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
They get broken on Twitter, and then people pick them up, and they copy them, and they screen, record them.
A lot of news that I've come across is broken on Twitter.
A lot of videos that way.
A lot of people just kind of jump to that.
You immediately film it, and you just put it on Twitter before anybody can stop it.
You can share it onto Twitter before you even close the app.
Yeah, so, and it's fast. The app is so super fast. It immediately uploads. It's not like YouTube where you're like... And even Instagram is like that. I'm like, okay, 2 hours? Oh, not worth it. But with Twitter, it's like, boom, it's there. If it's in the right format, if it's an MP4, boom. You just get it from your camera to your laptop or your handheld device, and boom, you're there. If you got it on your phone already, you don't even need to do that. I don't like live streaming. I used to do more of it because too many things can happen. It's dangerous. It's like you can get sued, you can like really piss people off, you can get the wrong people on camera at the wrong time and then get subpoenaed in a court case.
Yeah.
So I tend to be very, very careful what I put on YouTube. I have 400 videos on YouTube. And that's the thing is that you people, my friends, you should start following me because you keep asking me questions when if you just watched my latest YouTube or Instagram video, you would know all the answers and I would have to explain. But apparently my friends don't follow my journalism. They think of me as a musician and
it's an expectation for the next break.
That's the problem with being a journalist is you get addicted to the adrenaline high and then you never sleep. And everything is a breaking news story. So everything also, what's the word I'm looking for? Everything overrides whatever is happening in your personal life. So, speaking of which, I gotta call my brother. It's his birthday today. I should do that right now. This is one of the best views of Seattle you can have. Over Lake Union, Interlochen Drive, Lake Drive. It's like being in an airplane up here. Over there, that's Queen Anne Hill. The tower. That's also got a great view of the city from up on top of that hill. I'll see all the way to Lake Washington. This is Lake Union right here. Which is a place I like to do a lot of sailing, actually. Not many people out today, a few boats, but a lot of boats are on here, of course. And of course, the famous Space Needle.
Says it scraps everywhere. I said my songs a baby, then a baby over me. Well, I tried to make you happy, but you just let me down. I tried to do my best for you, but you just slept around. I gave you all my money, but you just wanted some more. I said I love you, honey. You just wanted to the
There's so many trains in Seattle, they're everywhere. Such a great view up here. I feel like I'm the one in the airplane. I'll show you why. This is the view. Welcome to the NTC Report. This is Mark Taylor-Canfield. I've been covering the protests in Seattle over the killing of George Floyd and other black men and women across the country since the protests began back in May, and the latest update is that CHOP still exists in Seattle. It's still up on Capitol Hill. Fewer people hanging out there, but there are still a lot of tents at Cal Anderson Park and people living there. And the protesters say that they're not leaving until their demands are met. Meanwhile, Jenny Durkin and Police Chief Carmen Best are trying to stop the chop. So, yeah, Police Chief Best and Mayor Jenny Durkin say the Capitol Hill organized protest will be dismantled and SPD will reoccupy the East Precinct Station. But the protesters say they'll continue to organize and rally in the autonomous zone. Although I have to tell you that it looks like the local media here has pretty much stopped reporting on the protests. So, how much do Black Lives Matter to local media here? Because apparently they just are not interested in the protest marches to the West Precinct or protesters blocking Interstate 5 now. I just don't see much coverage of it, if any. There have been several protests where I was the only journalist there. But protesters say they'll continue to organize in the autonomous zone, as it was called at one point. And demonstrators have called for Durkin and Best's resignation for allowing the police to attack protesters with tear gas, pepper spray, and rubber bullets and flashbang grenades earlier in June, earlier this month. But at a press briefing on June 22nd, Police Chief Carmen Best announced that the Seattle Police Department officers don't want to use batons or guns on protesters. But she claimed that the City Council had, quote, legislated away, unquote, their option of using tear gas, rubber bullets, flashbang grenades, and other crowd control weapons. And Carmen Best asked for the reinstatement of those devices in an attempt to remilitarize the Seattle Police Department after the City Council demilitarized it on June 15th by banning those military-grade crowd control weapons. So Mayor Jenny Durkin announced that the SPD will reoccupy the abandoned East Precinct, where protesters have held their vigils against police brutality and racism for many weeks now. There have also been memorials, and the memorials are still there, to young black men and women who have been killed at the hands of police. A new case has surfaced out of Aurora, Colorado, with Elijah McClain, a very sad case where another police homicide of a young black man. Mayor Jenny Durkin announced that the SPD will reoccupy the East Precinct, but the protesters tonight, when I was there at the CHOP zone, were having their usual General Assembly, which they have daily, and discussing their response to the police wanting to take the East Precinct back because the protesters would like to turn it into a community center, of which I've talked about it before in some of these reports. There's a long history in Seattle of activists occupying abandoned buildings that then became community centers, including the Central Area Motivation Program, El Centro de la Raza, the Daystar Tribal Cultural Center, and Discovery Park. Best and Durkin had previously promised not to use tear gas on demonstrators, but then they broke that promise on June 8th. And then on June 15th, the Seattle City Council voted unanimously to ban the procurement and the use of tear gas and crowd control weapons. So tensions are high in Seattle at the Occupied protest, where folks now expect to be confronted by police at any time who will attempt to clear the area. Meanwhile, as the world watches in wonder and is inspired by Seattle's innovative protest movement, Fox News, KOMO, which is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting, and Donald Trump want to convince everyone that the autonomous zone is occupied by terrorists. And now Police Chief Best and Mayor Durkin have signaled that they're getting ready to take Trump's advice to eliminate CHOP. The situation has not eased after several people have been shot during late-night incidents, including 2 fatalities on Capitol Hill now. My personal experience is that in the past, during the day, CHOP had been a very safe place to be, where families with children and local residents visited to show their solidarity with the protesters. And it wasn't so safe before the Seattle Police Department abandoned the East Precinct. In fact, I was attacked with tear gas and flashbang grenades twice while standing in Cal Anderson Park, trying to cover the protests as a reporter. Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin and SPD Chief Carmen Best are starting to use Trump's law and order stance as justification to shut down the anti-police brutality and anti-racism protests in Seattle. at least on Capitol Hill at the Chop Zone. None of the protesters' demands have yet been met, including the demand for Jenny Durkan's resignation as mayor. So this crackdown will look to some like a political move, no matter how the mayor and the chief try to spin it. It was very chilling, I have to say, hearing Chief Best complain that since the city council has banned the use of tear gas and rubber bullets, the only tools police have left to deal with protesters are batons and guns. If you're interested in more of my journalism, then definitely check out the over 400 original videos at my YouTube channel. But I also post a lot of videos at Instagram, especially my coverage of the Chop Seattle situation. I'm also a guest every Tuesday on the Jeff Santos Show, broadcasting nationally from Boston on the Revolution Radio Network. That's revolutionradionetwork.com, and you can check out archived shows there, or also listen to us live. He's on the air every day, Monday through Friday, from noon to 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'm a guest every Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time. I also work with Democracy Watch News. I'm executive director, so we have democracywatchnews.org, a not-for-profit news organization. We are not controlled or owned by corporations. Independent. And we have the Democracy Cast podcast, which we've been doing some pretty in-depth reports about the Chop Seattle situation. So my recent article is going to be published at the Seattle Star, which is a great website. Used to be the newspaper of record in Seattle back in the early 20th century. But Omar Wiley has done a great job of attracting talented cartoonists and writers there. So check it out, Seattle Star, seattlestar.net. Very innovative, kind of edgy, cutting-edge journalism there. I should add, I'm also a guest on the Jeff Santos Show. I'm also a guest on the Tom Hartman program, quite regularly reporting about issues from the Northwest. This is Mark Taylor-Canfield for the MTC Report. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like the video. Share.